Can you please discuss the pros and cons of an LLC? What is the difference between an LLC and a regular company?
Welcome to Barry's Bites. Please join our host, attorney and financial advisor Chris Barry.
This is getting into business structures, and we set up a lot of business structures, especially for our clients that have pieces of real estate or consulting businesses. We have a lot of engineers that retire, but then they kind of have a consulting side gig, or we have a lot of clients that have hunting properties or rentals. And so a lot of times we're putting them into a business interest. And almost always on our end, just with who we're working with, we're almost always using a LLC, a limited liability company. It's a newer form of business structure, but it offers the most flexibility, and it's the easiest set up and has the least amount of cost, and it's easiest and most flexible from a tax perspective as well. So there's different types of business entities. You could have a DBA, doing business as. That's not really a business entity. That's not protecting any type of liability. You could have a corporation. Typically, we're not setting up corporations because you have certain reporting requirements and things like that. A lot more hurdles to jump through, more complicated from a tax perspective. That would be for bigger companies. You can have a S Corp, and S Corps are pretty flexible, just like an LLC. That's another option, but there are more requirements for a S Corp than there are LLC. Again, LLC, hence limited liability company. So if you have a rental and there's a slip and fall, they can only take what's inside of that LLC, which would be the rental. They can't take your personal assets. And then the nice thing about an LLC is it gives you flexibility in terms of tax structure. This is more of a CPA conversation, but unless you get to a certain level of revenue, it's probably going to make sense for that LLC to pay taxes in a pass-through nature. But if you have employees or if you get to a certain level of revenue, then you might want that LLC taxed as a S Corp. But yeah, in our office, we're typically setting up LLCs because these aren't like multi-million-dollar companies that we're setting up. A lot of times it's for real estate or consulting or one-person LLCs. To figure out what makes the most sense, it's like goal strategy tools. So what are you trying to accomplish? Are you just starting up a startup? Then you're probably going to look at LLC. Are you trying to limit liability? Then you're looking at one of those business structures, certainly not a DBA. But this is where you're going to want to work with an attorney and a CPA, someone who knows what they're doing from a tax perspective, and then also knows what they're doing from a legal perspective. And that's the nice thing about our firm is we do legal, financial, and tax planning all under one roof. So we're bringing all these pieces together. But I would say as a general rule, the default would be, especially if you're starting something up new and you're expecting some type of revenue coming in, I would structure it as a LLC. That's generally the best option. But again, it really depends on your situation. And then if it's like a professional company, like our firm is a PLLC. So it stands for Professional Limited Liability Company. So there's little exceptions or offshoots of those. But as a general rule, we're looking at an LLC. If you're just starting a small business, a consulting business, or if you have rentals or even second pieces of property, we're using that LLC to limit the liability. And then you can make choices of how you want that to be taxed.